Support WrestleTalk!
Give us a subscribe.
Thank you for being an awesome Pledgehammer on Patreon, Andy Datson's #1 fan, Tomo. There's a draft coming. It's been announced by WWE that on the October 11th episode of SmackDown and the October 14th episode of Raw, we're getting yet another WWE draft. Wildcard rule be damned because the brands are being resplit despite never really being joined back together, but Raw Team The Revival are the current SmackDown Tag Team Champions, so I guess they came back together? With SmackDown going to Fox, WWE have deemed it necessary that it has its own roster, not to be shared with that Raw on the nasty USA network. And with Fox reportedly spending around $1 billion in order to secure SmackDown, you can bet some pretty seismic shifts are coming. There have been reports flying around that Fox wants a more sports-like feel to their show, even going so far as to potentially include a talk show on FS1 around SmackDown for that super realism. With all that said, some drastic changes are coming with the draft, but this isn't just something that WWE have to do to please Fox. This is also a chance to improve and bolster both products they have. So with that said, there are some draft moves that need to happen. Before we get into the picks we've come up with, make sure to hit the like, subscribe, and bell icon to enable notifications, and leave us a comment answering the question of the day, which today is, who would you move to Raw or SmackDown? Now let's start with the picks we feel need to happen, starting with Alistair Black to Raw. Alistair Black's door has had fewer knocks on it than that creepy guy's house everyone avoided on Halloween because he kept his candy in his pocket. He's had a couple of good matches with Cesaro, but other than that, his run on SmackDown has been completely pointless and a waste of enormous potential and talent. As you'll see from a number of names on this list, the best way of rejuvenating a character is by putting them on a different show, and someone like Black could be a perfect fit for Raw. Just showing up on a different show immediately makes you feel like a different wrestler. You could be losing endlessly on one night, but if you move to another show and start winning, the chances are everyone will forget how much of a loser you were before. The thing with Black though is that he isn't a loser. In fact, he hasn't lost since moving to SmackDown Live in the last Superstar Shake-Up. The problem has been that the writers don't know how to fit him into a show. I mean, it's not like they've got another scary wrestler who talks about death and stuff and has been one of the most successful characters in pro wrestling history that they could learn from. If he jumps over to Raw, he can stop with the door nonsense thing and just start taking ass and kicking names again like he should have been from the start. Kevin Owens to NXT. Now, bear with me here, I know NXT isn't a part of the draft, or so Triple H says, but we're gonna make an exception here. Unlike Alistair Black, who should move from SmackDown to Raw, we think Kevin Owens should make even more of a jump and move back to NXT. Plainly because the main roster writers are clearly incapable of making him look like anything other than a complete dork. He's just tried to sue Shane McMahon for $25 million, but prior to that he was forced to apologize to Shane McMahon and basically begged for his job back so he could support his family. Great stuff, WWE. Apologizing and talking about family is exactly the kind of behavior I associate with a badass character. Don't threaten me with a knife, just tell me that you need some help with your daughter's tuition fees, and I'll give you whatever you want. Considering Owens didn't actually show up on NXT's debut on USA, as it was speculated he might, perhaps a move to NXT isn't on the cards. However, that could be exactly what they want us to think before they swerve us and have him show up next week, but probably not. Chances are he'll be back on SmackDown and Shane will be offering up his own counter lawsuit because that's what this story needs. Seriously though, why not just put Owens in NXT? There are hundreds of potential storylines already made that you can do. His friendships with Adam Cole and Tommaso Ciampa, or you can have him as the returning veteran, or just literally give him anyone to wrestle and it will be awesome. Basically just get him as far away from Shane McMahon as humanly possible. Finn Balor to Raw. The last time we saw Finn Balor, he was being killed by The Fiend at SummerSlam. Thankfully, he is in fact Jesus and managed to rise again and has since gotten married, which is pretty good going. Despite wrestling The Fiend, who is a Raw star by the looks of things, Finn is still very much a SmackDown star. But his time on the blue brand has been even less fruitful than my attempt to grow a ponytail. However, there is now a perfect opportunity to bring him over to Raw, and it takes the form of one certain stable known for their time in Japan. I am, of course, talking about the Kabuki Warriors, or the OC. one of the two. Ever since the OC of AJ Styles, Carl Anderson, and Luke Gallows was formed on Raw, fans have been screaming out for Finn to join the group. All the men in the group are former Bullet Club members, so it just makes sense for Finn, another former Bullet Clubber, to join the squad and start two-sweeting everyone in sight. He's proved in New Japan that he is an effective heel, and alongside AJ Styles, the two men could be a real force to be reckoned with. Fans want to get behind him, so if they're given a reason to, they will. Make him relevant again and make him someone that isn't being used as fodder for the Fiend because he happened to have nothing else to do. The Viking Raiders to NXT or SmackDown. And speaking of having nothing else to do, well, the Viking raiding war experience has literally got nothing to do. They're not in a feud, and they're just being thrown into random matches when two big blokes are needed to make little blokes look smaller. They are a completely unique tag team in WWE, being big men who can also fly around like cruiserweights. But it was clear from the start that WWE's main roster had no idea what to do with them. In fact, bringing them up as the Viking experience was really the only proof we needed of that, and pretty much put the nails in their Raw coffin, or I guess in the flaming boat, because they're Vikings. They don't need to be on Raw. The Raw tag division, despite being buried, is actually full of very good teams, and losing one of those won't do any harm. The Viking Raiders weren't in NXT for very long, so returning there wouldn't feel strange, or if you don't want to do that, the SmackDown tag division is screaming out for someone else to join, and a team like Eric and Ivar would be ideal. That would mean teams like the Revival and the New Day could have actual feuds, rather than beating the B team for no reason. Becky Lynch to SmackDown. SmackDown needs stars if it's going to hit those 3 million viewership targets that Fox has set, and there are a few bigger stars in WWE right now than Becky Lynch. I know she's the Raw Women's Champion at the moment, but she is set to take on Sasha Banks at Hell in a Cell 2 days after the blue brand moves to Friday nights. The draft actually begins the week after Hell in a Cell, so what convenient timing for Lynch to drop the belt to Sasha, then move over to the blue brand the week after. It's thought that WWE are going to be flooding SmackDown with a lot of its biggest stars to try and please Fox as much as possible, and unfortunately the SmackDown women's division is looking a bit thin on the ground despite having plenty of talent. Two of the best women's wrestlers on planet Earth, Kairi Sane and Asuka, are in a pointless tag team. Ember Moon is going nowhere fast, as the only two people WWE seems to be able to book are Bayley and Charlotte, so you really need someone else to add into the mix, or we're set for another year of Charlotte and Bayley matches. I'm not really sure I need to see another one of those. I guess Carmella's around now, but Becky has been on all of the SmackDown promotional posters and graphics for its moves to Fox, and as the first ever SmackDown Women's Champion, it will be something of a homecoming for her that WWE could work into a story. Bobby Lashley to SmackDown. The walking Armageddon, or as he has been in WWE, the hobbling kerfuffle. Bobby Lashley is currently out of action with an injury, but is expected to be back at any second. As we've already seen this past week on SmackDown Live, Brock Lesnar has made the move to the blue brand in order to face Kofi Kingston for the WWE Championship on the SmackDown Live Fox debut. This is a move that many, including Luke on the Wrestle Ramble, predicted, as Fox reportedly wants the show to be a much more sports-based show, and as a former UFC champion, Brock Lesnar's a perfect fit. Once he's beaten Kofi, and let's be real, he's almost certainly beating Kofi, he'll need someone to challenge him, perhaps someone with a history of mixed martial arts, like Bobby Lashley. Now that he's rid of the one-man Bobby Lashley fan club that was Lio Rush, he's free to become the star he was always supposed to be. It's amazing that even Vince McMahon has struggled to book Lashley, given that he's essentially one throbbing muscle. But if you cut out the promos and just have him overpower everyone on his way to Brock Lesnar, then you're gonna be onto a winner. Lashley has spoken before about being annoyed that he has never faced the Beast, as it was one of the things promised to him by WWE when he returned to the company. But now we've got a draft coming up and Lashley has been out for a few months injured, it's the ideal time to bring him back in and have the two meat mountains face off. Ronda Rousey to SmackDown. Hey, remember that bit when I said that Fox wants a sporty show? And you know Ronda Rousey? That really sporty person whose entire character is based around her UFC career? Yeah, let's see if we can put two and two together, shall we? Ronda Rousey hasn't been seen on WWE TV since she lost her Raw Women's Championship to Becky Lynch at WrestleMania 35 in April earlier this year, but has publicly said she is keen on making her return. During filming of a new TV show recently, Ronda nearly lost a finger, but she managed to kick out at 2, and the finger was saved, much to the disappointment of one Pete Dunne. Once that's all healed, WWE will surely be be desperate to bring her back in. Not only that, but WWE's women's division will be desperate to have her back, as WWE only seems to care about its women's division when Ronda's around. Having Ronda and Brock on the same roster will be something Fox will almost certainly have asked for in their deal, so we'll just have to wait and see if we'll be getting Rowdy Beasts come October 11th. That's a terrible tag team name, don't do that. Don't put them on Mixed Match Challenge. God, don't put them on Mixed Match Challenge. But those were just our picks for who we want to see move in the draft. Let us know who you would move in the comments below, and press the videos to the right to be taken to the latest WrestleTalk and Screen Stalker things. A special thank you to our pledge hammers on Patreon, some of whom you can see scrolling below me right now. I've been Chopper Pete Quinnell, and that was wrestling.